Okay, welcome in. I'm now going to be doing all the Saturday's games, and as I'm uploading this, this game's actually already started, so I'm a little behind on this prediction. It is currently 4-2 in the second period for the Ottawa Senators, so they are playing their second game along with the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers are coming in off their first win of the season at 1-0-0, and obviously the Senators fell to the Carolina Hurricanes in their first game. So I'm going to make my prediction, even though, like I said, it's already going into the third period. I think the Senators will get their first win of the season at home, and they should tie their record at 1-1-0. And then obviously, if Philadelphia loses, they'll also fall to 1-1-0. So not really that big of a deal or the end of the world, but that's the first game that's actually still being played. So now we'll take a look and see the other teams that are playing today. So we have an original six matchup taking place. As soon as I can get the video to upload. There. So between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Montreal Canadiens, the Blackhawks are now playing their third game in 4 nights. Ironically, all three games have been played away from home, so I'm sure they'll love to get back at home ice to be able to be in front of their fans, especially with Connor Bedard being at the helm. So they are taking on the Montreal Canadiens. So the Blackhawks are sitting at 1 win and 1 loss, 0 overtime/shootout losses, while the Montreal Canadiens are playing their second game, and they had a heartbreaking loss, but at least they got a point out of it in their shootout loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to give the edge to the Canadiens in this one. I just think that being on home ice can give you an advantage, to say the least, and they should secure their first win of this 2023 campaign. Taking a look at the next matchup, we have the Florida Panthers. They're coming into Winnipeg to take on the Jets. Both these teams are sitting at 0-1-0 after losing their first game of the season. I'm going to give the edge to the Jets in this one. I just think that they should be able to bounce back after their, don't want to say dreadful loss to the Flames, but it wasn't that pretty. And obviously, Florida is trying to get back on the 500 record after losing their home opener, after losing their first game of the season. I do apologize, but I just believe the Jets have a little bit more firepower, and they should be able to secure their first win of this season. Take a look at the next matchup. So this next matchup takes place in Beantown between the Nashville Predators and the Boston Bruins. The Predators are now playing their third game in 4 nights. They are sitting at 1-1-0, while the Bruins obviously got their first victory of the season against the Chicago Blackhawks. They are now sitting at 1-0-0. I believe, if I'm going to make my bold prediction, I'm going to say that Bruins get their victory. Obviously, the big thing with them going forward, I do apologize, is obviously they don't really have a technical number one center now that both Bergeron and Krejci have retired. But I think if you trust in the likes of Zaka and Coyle, they could potentially be like a 1B type of a plan or 1A type of a plan. But obviously, I'm sure they would love to have gotten someone during the offseason. But either here nor there, they're at where they're at. I should say. But I do truly believe, if I can stop getting tongue tied, that they should secure their second victory of this season, while the Predators will most likely fall to 1-2-0. So the Rangers are coming into this second game of their season, taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are also playing their second game of the season. The Rangers won their first game. They're sitting at 1-0-0, while the Blue Jackets fell in their first game. They are sitting at 0-1-0. I'm going to give the edge to the Rangers in this one. I just think they're a better team overall, and I think for Columbus, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a long season. If I'm going to make my bold prediction, I just think it's going to be a long, tough road for this team, considering that the amount of talent that's in that Metropolitan Division. So I'm going to give the edge to the Blue Shirts, and the Rangers, in this case, should get the victory on Saturday evening. Our next matchup takes place in Michigan. So I'm just going to pull up the teams from that matchup. Two teams from the Atlantic, the Tampa Bay Lightning will be taking on the Detroit Red Wings. Tampa Bay coming off their first win of the season at 1-0-0, while Detroit suffered their first loss. They are sitting at 0-1-0. I'm going to make a crazy prediction, and it's only because Vasilevsky's out for such a long time. I think the Red Wings might pull this one off. I just think they're a young core, and on paper, yes, Tampa Bay is more starstruck. They have a lot more talent, but you got to think this is a vision that's when you have Stevie Y as your GM for both squads. He obviously drafted a lot of players from Tampa Bay when he had that little run with them, and then obviously he's now back with the team that he once played for with the Detroit Red Wings. So I think this is just going to be, how do you put it, like a chess match between both these teams as they are very talented. Obviously, Tampa is a little bit more superior with their little dynasty that they had with their 2 cups in 3 years. And Detroit, like I said, they're a young, growing team, and they should be competitive in the future. So I'm going to give the edge to the Red Wings in this matchup. The next one takes place in the Steel City between the Calgary Flames and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, the Penguins just coming off their loss last night. A win last night against the Washington Capitals, and obviously the Flames coming off their first win at home against the Winnipeg Jets. When it comes to teams playing back-to-back nights, I feel like fatigue can most likely play a factor. And just like I did with my Devils prediction, it was a pretty close contest, and I ultimately took overtime / a shootout. So I would not be surprised if this was the same result for the Penguins. I just believe when you're playing back-to-back nights, and the fact that they were away last night and now they're back home, I'm sure the travel might play a bit of a factor into how you play on the next night. So I'm going to give the edge to the Flames as they are a little bit more rested. But again, I would not be surprised if this came down to like a late third period, overtime, or a shootout as a result for this particular matchup. The next matchup takes place in Ontario, where we have the capital Toronto Maple Leafs obviously the capital of Ontario taking on the Minnesota Wild. The Wild are coming off their first win of the season, as are the Maple Leafs. So one team will have to give in, while the other one may, and most likely will be suffering their first loss of the season. I'm going to give the edge to the Leafs in this matchup. I just think they're a better team on paper. I just can't say enough about them. Just coming from a Habs fan, obviously I have to swallow a bit of pride when it comes to admitting other teams and their greatness. So I believe the Leafs should improve to 2-0, while I think the Wild will drop to 1-1 on the season. The next matchup takes place in New York, or on Long Island to be specific, between the Buffalo Sabres and the New York Islanders. So for the Sabres, obviously they lost their first game of the season. They are sitting at 0-1-0, while the New York Islanders are playing their first game and their first home game of the 2023 campaign. I'm going to give the edge to the Sabres in this matchup. I think I predicted them last time to win, but they didn't. But I think they should have a bounce-back game and secure their first win of the 2023 season. The next matchup takes place in Missouri between the Seattle Kraken and the St. Louis Blues. Obviously, the Blues are coming off a overtime loss to their Central Division rivals in the Dallas Stars. They're sitting at 0-0-1, while the Kraken are sitting at 0-2-0. So one team should get their first win of the season, and I'm going to go with the Blues in this particular matchup. I just believe they're a very competitive team, and I think it's going to be a tough start for the Seattle Kraken, and they'll still be looking for their first win of the season by Game 4. A very intriguing matchup in the Pacific, as we have two teams that just faced each other just a few nights ago. So I'm sure there's going to be some revenge on the minds of certain players as the Vancouver Canucks are heading into Edmonton to take on the Oilers. Obviously, the Vancouver Canucks got a humongous win at home against the Oilers in their home opener, 8-1. So I got a funny feeling the Oilers should be able to bounce back. And I'm not saying they're going to put up 8 goals against the Vancouver Canucks, but I believe on home ice with the fans, that should help them secure their first win. And both these teams should, and most likely will, be sitting at 1-1-0 by the time this game is said and done. The next matchup takes place in California. And we do have the San Jose Sharks, who are hosting the Colorado Avalanche. So for the Avs, they obviously won their first game of the season. They're sitting at 1-0-0, while the Sharks lost their first game of the season at home. They're sitting at 0-1-0. I feel like I have no choice but to give the edge to the Avalanche in this one. As I've said before in onion videos that I've discussed the Sharks, that they are most likely in a rebuild, and they are in a rebuild. I think it's going to be a long season for the Sharks, to say the least, while the Avs should be very competitive in that Central Division. So the Avs should also get their second win of this season. Our next matchup takes place in Nevada, where we have the Vegas Golden Knights taking on one of their many Pacific Division foes, in the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are playing their first game of the 2023 campaign, while the Golden Knights will be playing their third game, and they are still undefeated on the season, 2-0-0. And I believe they should be able to carry that momentum into this matchup and secure their third win and stay undefeated on the season, while the Ducks will most likely suffer their first loss in their first game of this young year. And the last game takes place in California. I've already covered the Sharks, and obviously the Ducks are away, so that would have to mean that we're heading to La La Land, where we have the Los Angeles Kings taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. The Kings suffered their first loss in their first game. They're sitting at 0-1-0, while the Hurricanes are sitting at 1-0-0 on the year. I'm going to give the edge to the Hurricanes in this matchup, as well as as talented as the Kings are on the offensive side, and I guess that they have very good defense as well. I just think that their goaltending is a little suspicious, or sus, as all the young kids are trying to say. Without a number one goaltender, it's really hard to be as competitive as you are. I'm not saying that the Kings are going to go through a slump, and by any means, but I just think the Carolina Hurricanes are very talented on all ends of the ice. So I will give the edge to the Hurricanes, while I think that Kings will still be searching for their first win of this 2023 campaign. As always, if you happen to come across this video, feel free to hit that sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative at the same time. Help this channel hopefully grow. And until next time, take care.